Look at the themes. Look at the experiences that keep showing up in your life. Look at the people that keep showing up in your life. You will see a repetition of personalities, a repetition of events. They may not be exactly the same, but they are a repetition of a particular experience, a particular way of doing things.
Right.
As a soul, you do get into the idea of being stuck in a loop. These are your loops. These are your lessons. Until you get the lessons, until you realize that you no longer need to have those particular experiences, you'll keep having them until you get everything you need out of them. And they may, even after coming back up, show back up in your particular experience to say, would you like to continue on the lesson? And once you see that the lesson is there and it's been done, you can say, no thanks.
Right. Okay, thank you. That's really good.
Same thing with your wars. Same thing with suicide. Same thing with just about anything inside of your experience and the themes you chose to play out in this lifetime or any other.
Okay, so you get to explore a theme until you resolve it, then you can move to another theme in more lifetimes.
Yes.
Okay. Is there I'll ask it. How does, I mean, myself as Joe, I only know this life, but my higher self will know my other lifetimes, yes?
Well, your higher self can see into other realities, other parallel versions of you, other versions of incarnations that you have that are connected to this particular lifetime, because it is not in the physical state and does not have the idea of the amnesia that goes along with being in the physical state. It does not require to forget.
Right. How do I tap into these lessons that have already been absorbed into my higher mind, self, soul level, but I can't see it down here?
You're looking at them from being in the valley. You need to shift your perspective and understanding to being on the mountaintop. You need to more look at them like memories. How do you recall a memory? How do you recall experiences that you've had in this lifetime or any other? It's a vibrational frequency that you choose to tap into, that you allow yourself to connect to.
Yes.
Because you can see memories from you from when you were a child, from you when you were a teenager, from when you were in your 20s, the moment your daughter was born. Any of those experiences you can call up when you need to.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to tap into other incarnations, much like the channel is connecting to us and able to move up to the level where he's able to connect to us and tap into our memories, our experience, he knows that he is connected to us. He knows that he is not us, but we are connected to all the same oversoul.
Right.
You need to shift your perspective up to the level where you can connect to that larger aspect of yourself. Because this is where all the information is stored anyways.
Making a note here. Okay, thank you. That's really good. I did do an experiment a few days ago, and I wanted to see what it would be like to operate from higher mind perspective, from top of the hill, top of the mountain.
Yes.
And I did find the exercise was very helpful to see a bigger picture and even be able to say, from that perspective, what would a certain answer would be to a certain question. And I received very good information and very good answer while assuming that perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been assuming that perspective more and more until I think at one point I would perhaps only or on demand see from that perspective. Yeah.
That is what you call being psychic. That is what you saw with Yeshua
Mm-hmm.
going through that experience. He could only ever see from that point of view towards the end of his incarnation on this planet.
Right.
You see this with many of the different masters that you have in your history, many of the different avatars that experience the idea of pure enlightenment. This is what you as a people have been working towards, but you are not monks. You are being able to shift to the ideas that are present in your life and other people's lives. Being able in the moment to shift into that state is the idea. When you can purely live that way, you will be in a purely enlightened state.
Yeah, and I see it happening, and it's. I think it's very achievable.
Yes. Well, that is the age that you as a culture, as a people, are in currently.
Yeah.
You are going through the ideas of elevation, ascension. That is why it has been such a big topic on your planet for many years now.
Yes, and it seemed that the conversation is really, as much as it's about war, it's also about spiritual ascension, for lack of a better word, spiritual ascension.
Yes.
The both these voices are growing tremendously above any other voice, really.
Yes, and you are shifting away from, energetically, the people that are going to stay more in the idea of war.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you will shift away from them.
Yes.
The voice of chaos, the voice of destruction,
Yes.
the voice of peace, the voice of order.
Yes. You mentioned Jesus. I was reading this this book about the Qumran scrolls, and this book was written in 1975 our time, and it talks about the scrolls that were found by the Dead Sea around Masada there.
Yes.
Are you familiar with those?
Yes.
I'd love to hear your perspective on those scrolls and whatever you know about them.
The idea of your Dead Sea Scrolls, when they have been fully translated, because many of the scrolls themselves are ancient wisdom that has been passed down. You have heard the idea that there were many caches around your planet of information that have been passed down from generation to generation for thousands of years. This is one of those caches, one of those places where the information was stored. Very small amount of those particular stories have been translated currently, correct?
Well, the 4 mentioned in the book were translated by the 80s.
Yes.
But there must be many more.
But most of the actual scrolls themselves have not been translated yet.
Okay. I wouldn't know.
But the information that is there imparted onto you as a culture will enhance, will help grow, and will help expand your understanding of your past. There have been technology that was at Qumran during that time period that was moved prior to the destruction of that particular settlement.
What kind of technology?
It was a cache of some of the Atlantean information, some of the Atlantean technology that was passed down, particular high frequency objects that, unless you learn to attune to that particular vibration, you would go psychotic and you would die.
What's the purpose of this technology?
To heal, to inform, to help you connect to and to see yourself as the pyramid, to see yourself as the embodiment of the non-physical aspect of yourself in physical form. There were teachers there that taught many of you how to heal. This was the location where Yeshua was in his early years. It was where many of his early masters were that he moved through. That is why he had the idea of the ability to heal, the ability to have knowledge, the ability to connect to his Father, to God, to all that is.
Mhm.
Because he as a soul knew that he was going to go through this particular experience. He was in a place where it had much of this information available. And when he reached the appropriate age, he traveled. He traveled to other places that had more information, more knowledge, such as Egypt, such as Greece, such as the British Isles, even to India, and many other places. Because he had connections to many of his particular past lives and had a full understanding and open ability to connect to those abilities. He was also, many of the people that he traveled with were also people he had experienced many different lives with, such as Mary, such as Philip. They have traveled together as a group many different lifetimes.
Thank you. The book mentions that it is unclear. He said there are two types of sects, for lack of a better word, around that area. One were the Essenes, and one was the unnamed sect that the book speaks of. And the book is not sure if those are the same people. Would you know?
They are the same people.
They are the same. Okay. And they used to have tradition of purification, if I understand correctly.
Yes. It's what you refer to as your modern day baptisms in Christianity.
Right. And
Many of the traditions that were passed down was the idea of Christianity today originated from the Essenes themselves.
Yes, I kind of got that from the book too, that some of those traditions or that were developed during those times by these people, by these scenes, were later made into base and roots of Christianity as we know it today.
Yes.
And the Gnostics, were they part of that chain, of that lineage of thinking?
Yes. Much of the sect of the Essenes themselves were Gnostic in nature. Their beliefs did not adhere to one particular sect or way of seeing things. He worshipped Yahweh. Correct?
So sorry, you were cut off. Would you repeat that, please?
The idea of Yahweh in your history was passed down over and over and over again. The idea of God. This is one particular name for all that is. Because remember, with the idea of gods that you have in your history, some of them are indicative of coming in contact with extraterrestrials, such as us, and other beings from other races that were there to help you after the end of the Younger Dryas to rebuild, to grow. And they were mythologized in your history as the archetypes eventually of particular gods around your world.
Right.
Because many of those civilizations at that time did not have the awareness or understanding that there are beings from outside your world that are just beings.
Right. The angels mentioned in the Bible, Gabriel, Raphael, there's many of those. What kind of entities are those?
Those are the ideas of the first embodiment, past the idea of all that is. The depiction of beings that you see in the Bible, the descriptions, were not angels. They were very high level beings, but they were from inside of your particular star system.
Are you talking about the Ra?
No, Ra itself is just the idea of the star, soul. But the idea of the angels that are described in your Bible, in your religious texts, in your Torah, were actual beings. They're just very high level energetic beings. And many civilizations, many beings, when they come to interact with you, display themselves in a way that was the last previous form before they shifted to the idea of non-physicality.
I see. So they would materialize or show themselves in a certain form so the human can interact with them in the physical range.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Did Yeshua meet any of these beings?
Yes. He would, because of where he was technically speaking, energetically at such a high vibration, he was able to interact with these beings because he could see them all around him.
What happened to the Essenes after Yeshua time?
They destroyed themselves. They went to fight a war, and they all died. Much of the knowledge, because they could see that they were going to die, was what you found in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Right. And which war era was it that they all died?
They died approximately 200 years after the idea of Yeshua's time, at the end of their particular sect. Most of them died at 50 years of his passing.
Right.
But at the end of his particular sect died about 200 years after Yeshua.
And who do they have the war with?
Please repeat.
Who do they have the war with?
The Romans.
Oh, okay. So that's the same war where the Romans came to Masada.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I connect the dots. Thank you very much. I've been to Masada. I know the site. So those are
they needed to go through the idea of destruction, their apocalypse, their end of their world. But they were able to continue on the information by passing the scrolls down, and that what was eventually found in Israel.
Yeah. And this sect, I'll mention to anyone who may be watching this later, when the Romans came too close, they slaughtered their own families and fell on their own swords.
Yes. The idea of imprisonment, the idea of enslavement was contrary to the beliefs they had been raised with. So they fell.
Yeah.
You see this cycle repeating over and over and over again on your planet. The idea of destruction, the idea of creation, the idea of growth.
Yeah. Was any of the Essenes' DNA survived? Like someone that went on and had passed on the DNA?
Yes. It's passed into much of the population of Israel today. The Arabs, the idea is that their DNA is passed down to many people in that particular region.
I could imagine that from all the people in Israel, whether they're Arabs or not Arabs, the DNA must be quite similar.
Yes.
Right. So it's really the same people fighting each other.
Yes. Brother fighting brother.
Yeah.
Sister fighting sister. Cousin fighting cousin. That is why the conflict in Ukraine is literally the same thing. It's just at a larger scale over a larger area.
Yes. Ethan, we mentioned Ra earlier.
Yes.
I listened to a few of the Ra channelings done by Don Elkins and Carla and Jim back in the 80s. Are you familiar with those?
We know the being that was channeled through that person.
Yes. Who is that being that was channeled?
That was more of the idea of a collective consciousness.
Right.
The Ra name is the closest you can be given to understand and connect to your people.
And that being, if I remember correctly, said that it visited Atlantis and it visited Egypt in the past.
Yes. That
Did
is
it?
why you see the idea of that name appearing in your history.
Uh-huh. And when they visited, did they show themselves in a humanoid form?
Well, they were able to materialize at that time because they were able to perceive them, because it was less cluttered by the technology that you have now. They were more easily able to densify in a way that was more palatable to people at the time.
And what would the experience of people watching them, what would they see or think
They would more or less see a normal body, somewhat larger with a higher frequency, because they were operating at such a high frequency, they did not quite remember everything that happened. That is why the stories were recorded into your history book. But they would also embody and channel through particular different beings, even at that time, and information would be delivered.
Did the Ra collective give any technology to the Atlanteans or the Egyptians?
The information. The idea of the mystery schools that have proliferated around your planet for thousands of years to sustain and to collect the information and then eventually transmit it to the collective population that you have been experiencing for the last 50 to 60 of your years.
Came from the Ra.
Yes. And also other collectives as well.
Okay. I've always wondered why that collective decided to show up back in the 80s and why, or how it all came to be with Don Elkins, Carla, and Jim.
Well, that was the agreement for those particular beings to be able to bring forward that information into your history. Those sort of things, such as the channel having me come through him, this is done by agreement on a higher level prior to the incarnation. You've also seen the idea of the raw collective come through other beings since that time through different people.
Yeah.
So there you go. Because they become familiar with the idea of that particular vibration, they are able to bring in it and integrate it into their particular field.
When a channeler says, I am Ra, is it the same Ra entity? How can I know?
You will know by the particular frequency that they put off. It's like a particular scent.
Right.
You know if the vibration of them is truly coming through a person. If it maintains that high vibrational state, the information is of equal quality and insistence and vibrational accord with the information that was delivered prior to.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. It's like knowing someone and you just hear them through various devices. You still know that's the entity.
Yes, like you, if you were to interact with me through another being, another channel, you would know if it was me.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Could you ask the Ra if they have any message for us?
One moment, we will facilitate a connection to that collective. I am Ra. I bring forward to you the vibrational accord that facilitates the connection to our collective in a more active way. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra. Ra, how do you view the situation on our sphere at the moment?
I am Ra. You bring forward the vibrational state that you, as beings, need to experience. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra. Ra, I believe that you mentioned to Don Elkins that you've contributed technologies in the times of Atlantis, in the times of Egypt. Have you been contributing any specific technologies since then, and specifically recently?
I am Ra. We bring forward our vibration into your collective to integrate, and also into being able to integrate into our collective, to see yourself as part of us. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra.
The frequency itself is the gift, is the technology that you seek. I am Ra.
Thank you. I've noticed there are more appearances via channelers of Ra. What is the reason for that?
I am Ra. We choose to amplify ourselves through many different channels. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra. Do you find that your work with multiple channels at the same time is resulting in the more positive vibrations?
I am Ra. Our ability to facilitate through many different channels spreads the vibration and frequency to a larger portion of your population sooner. I am Ra.
I see. Thank you. Your message to Dawn was a message of unity. All is one. Is that still the message?
I am Ra. This is correct. There is nothing outside of unity. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra. How do we, as a collective that believe there were each individualized consciousness with no seeming connection to the next person, come to the realization of oneness?
I am Ra. By seeing yourself in your brother and seeing yourself in every person you enter into connection with, and knowing they are one with you. I am Ra.
Thank you very much. Ra, how do you see us as becoming when do you see us becoming a planetary society?
I am Ra. You are already a planetary society. You are already beings of light. I am Ra.
Thank you. When do you think we'll have open contact with other beings and entities from other stars and planets?
I am Ra. You are already having interactions with beings from other planets. I am Ra.
Thank you. Are you foreseeing a mass lending or mass sighting of sorts to enable all those that may still have questions or too afraid to point? So do you foresee a mass sighting in the near future?
I am Ra. Those who are too afraid to see will never see. I am Ra.
Thank you. Is there any specific message to the people of what we call Canada, where I live now?
I am Ra. The people of your world must no longer see themselves as parts, but one of the whole to all. You are connected to all through your frequency, to your states of being. I am Ra.
Thank you, Ra. I know what you mean, but there's so much distance between where we are now and the way we govern ourselves and others to the point where we truly protect the planet and share its resources. How do we get from here to there?
We have shifted back into the connection. The idea of being able to connect and see yourself in all those around you. You must start from a place of compassion, a place of kindness inside of yourself, and not approaching your world, your place of existence, with the idea of greed. You must exist in a state, in a place where you, as beings, see them yourself as part of the whole, part of the way of existing without interruption. Understand that the things that exist in your life and have synchronistically shown up are there for you to live out the experience and the ideas that you are connected to all that is, with who you are, and who you are is perfect and fully capable of having everything you need in every moment.
Thank you very much. And thank you for bringing Ra in there.
The idea of the raw vibration will, from here on, be integrated into further channels and be able to be accessed by the channel henceforth.
Thank you. Ethan, do you have any recommendations for the channel and myself to spread the message and to get more people to get acquainted with you through the videos?
You have been going through the process for the last few of your months to be able to actually become in resonance, become in tune to the process of delivering the information to those that need it, that will resonate with the message that we bring forward.
Yes. Where do you think would be a good place to continue from here?
We will be delivering particular topics to the channel to give to you and allow you to formulate questions for further sessions, as well as we will be allowing more different people to interact with us, and being given the information will be disseminated through various platforms beyond this current one.
Very good. Is there anything else I can do to help the channel and yourself spread the word?
You are working perfectly for the particular function that you have chosen to be.
Thank you. Do you have any final message for us for this evening?
Always be willing to be yourself. Always be willing to shift. Always be willing to understand that life, the frequency of living, is very fluid in nature. So be willing to be like water. Be willing to take chances, even when it seems scary. Understand that fear is merely a plaything It is not there. It is not permanent. This is what we have to give to you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ethium. We are complete for today.
Good day.
Good day.